Hi, I'm Tegan Smith and I'm a senior in high school. I was born in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, and this is where I joined USA Girl Scouts overseas as a daisy in kindergarten. I am currently a Girl Scouts ambassador and I'm working on completing my Gold Award. This is where I need your help. My project's main focus is to see what we can all do to help reduce the amount of discarded and displaced plastic products that are littering our seas and oceans every year. It also focuses on improving what each of us does to reduce, reuse, and recycle so that we dispose of waste responsibly. Continue watching to see how big the problem is and the plastic soup that our marine life is living in.
Underwater paradise, a plastic nightmare. Diver Rich Horner just days ago filming stunning images, searching for fish but finding an ocean of plastic trash. Bags, bottles, buckets too, he said. Off the tourist island of Bali, it's meant to be home to hundreds of manta rays. He saw just one, and it's hard to pick out any fish amid the garbage. On the surface too, it's not natural, it's plastic. He says this is the worst it's ever been. Experts call it a global threat.
We've got an ugly, dangerous problem, and we're not fearing it sufficiently.
The UN estimates by 2050 there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Already it holds 5 trillion plastic particles dumped across the world. Americans, for instance, throwing out on average 10 plastic bags a week each. Millions ending up here.
Animals big and small are ingesting those, and how that eventually ends up inside our own bodies. It ultimately is poisoning all of us, the humans, fish.
Almost all of the plastic ever produced is still on Earth. And in the oceans, huge islands of it now, threatening to smother turquoise seas. Bill Neely, NBC News.
Now you've seen what the problem is and the current state of the ocean that Tony the Turtle and his friends are living in. While you might think the problem is bad enough, it's worse than you might think.
It is everywhere. We need it. We want it. We even find it in places where we wouldn't expect it. When researchers examined the stomach of a beached sperm whale in 2012, they found 30 square meters of tarpaulin, a 4.5 meter long hose, a 9 meter long plastic rope, and 2 flower pots. How is this possible? On average, a European uses and disposes of more than 100 kilograms of plastic per year. A large part of plastic waste ends up on huge landfills or in the sea. Today, more than 100 million tons of plastic is drifting around the oceans. Due to particular currents in the Pacific Ocean, a new continent has been born. A mass of plastic waste the size of Europe. In some areas of the oceans, there is up to 60 times as much plastic as there is plankton. Because plastic does not rot, it lasts up to 500 years. Through exposure to sun, wind, and water, plastic is broken down into microscopic parts. These plastic particles can absorb high concentrations of agricultural and industrial toxins. Many animals mistake the plastic for plankton and eat their fill. Every year, more than 100,000 turtles, marine mammals, and seabirds die a slow and painful death because they starve with a full stomach or because their intestines rupture. Other marine creatures in whose cells plastic and toxins have accumulated end up as seafood on our plates. The smallest form of plastic are microplastics. They are added to cosmetics, shower gels, and toothpastes. A tube of toothpaste contains up to 10% microplastics. But sewage plants cannot filter microplastics, so they too end up in the sea. In the making of plastic, hazardous chemicals are used in order to enhance elasticity of fire resistance. Bisphenol A, plasticizers or flame retardants are contained in almost every plastic product. Through exposure to heat, the wrong detergent, or simply over time, plastic will go brittle, thus releasing these chemicals, which in turn, through the airways, ingestion or through mere touch, find their way into the human body. The consequences are severe. They include increased risk of cancer, asthma, infertility and developmental disorders. The plastic industry tries to cover up any scandals and runs a gigantic lobbying campaign in order to prevent stricter laws or inquiries. Plastic factories are veritable fortresses, the plastic production process a tightly kept secret. This is one of the reasons why no one is exactly sure what substances are added to the plastic. Over the course of the last 10 years, only 11 chemical substances could be analyzed out of a total of 100,000 possible additives. But there is hope yet. Intelligent robot nets, or fishing boats converted to floating recycling factories, are intended to cleanse the oceans. Bioplastic made of maize or starch could replace conventional plastic. However, its production consumes valuable food, so it's no solution for satisfying the global demand for plastic. This is why you must radically change your consumption behavior. Pay attention to the packaging of products. Substitute paper or cloth bags for plastic bags. Don't throw away old plastic, but recycle it and use plastic-free products. Are we going to allow the destruction of the Earth to continue? If we act now, there may still be hope for future generations, before the miracle material definitely turns on its creator.
When plastic starts to degrade or rot, it breaks into small pieces called microplastics. When this happens, it releases toxic substances, which is dangerous, as many animals that live in the sea, even minute zooplankton, mistake plastic for food. On the way to the sea, these plastic fragments can also absorb other toxic substances from polluted areas that they pass through on the way. This causes the plastic to become bombs, which can then explode within an animal that eats the plastic. Plastics can be found on every beach in the world. Would you want to swim in an ocean like that? Or play on a beach filled with trash? Or eat fish from these boats? Plastic is the most prevalent type of marine debris found in our oceans and Great Lakes. They can come in all shapes and sizes, but those that are less than 5 millimeters in length, or the size of a sesame seed, are known as microplastics. Microplastics can be found at 5,000 meters deep. To get a clearer image of this, let's think about it in the terms of a school bus. A school bus is around 12 meters long, so just imagine a line of school buses going straight down into the ocean. The depths of where microplastics are found is so deep that humans are unable to dive down there, even in scuba gear. There have also been plastic water bottles found at a depth of around 3,500 meters, which is around 291 school buses. Currently, scientists are unable to calculate how much plastic is really in our oceans, and it's only getting worse. I could talk about what a gyre is, but the 5 Gyres Institute has created the upcoming video to tell you what they are and where they are.
So a gyre is a natural phenomenon. A gyre is simply a rotating current system that's comprised of the Earth's rotation coupled with currents and prevailing winds. So it's essentially like a massive whirlpool, a vortex in the oceans. Say a piece of floating plastic from California in the North Pacific Gyre can take 10 years to make the rotation from California to Japan and all the way back.
So what we have found is that these plastic particles are not just in the North Pacific Gyre, they're in all 5 subtropical gyres, and all these gyres have several garbage patches in them, 8 garbage patches total in the 5 gyres.
So that was our inspiration to start the 5 Gyres Institute, to look at this plastic pollution issue on a global scale and try and show the world this is an international problem. These plastics are coming from every continent in the world, and solutions have to be on the international level. When I first heard this talk in 2001 from Captain Moore, I heard description of an island of garbage that people were calling the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. In the media, it was described as a Texas-sized island.
It's really hard to quantify how much plastic is floating in the world's oceans. These garbage patches that exist in the gyres, they're elusive, they change shape, they move around. You may trawl for 10 hours straight, you'll get a handful of plastic. You put it back in 10 hours more, and there's nothing.
So it's essentially like a plastic soup of all of this disposable waste that we create on land masses, from California to Asia, Canada, Mexico, enters this North Pacific Gyre and gets swept up into this accumulation zone.
Islands in the gyres we're discovering are the natural nets for trash at sea. It's impractical to try and scoop out trash out of the ocean. What we can do is wait for it to wash ashore. So to clean a gyre, clean your beach, clean your watershed, clean your street. As close as you can get to the source is a better way we can solve the problem of plastics in the ocean.
Is the concentration of plastic pollution the highest in the gyres? Not necessarily. There are other places that the concentration of plastic is just as high or even higher. This is due to circulating currents, and they're called hotspots. Hotspots are places where, for various reasons, plastic concentrates. These hotspots illustrate that trash that we throw away really doesn't disappear. Items such as plastic bags, disposable food containers, snack wrappers, and even plastic utensils pose a major hazard for marine life. This is due to the animal's playful nature and curiosity towards the items. The Mediterranean Sea is one of these hotspots. This is due to 2 factors: the constant supply of plastic from rivers that flow into it, and the fact that the strait that connects it to the Atlantic Ocean is so narrow that little plastic can escape. This means that any plastic that goes into the Mediterranean will stay in the Mediterranean. So now that you know what plastic soup is and how we're hurting our marine life and destroying the ocean, I'm asking you to join me to try and make some changes in your life and in others in order to protect the planet and ocean that we all know and love for now and the future. And while some of you might be thinking, I'm just a kid, there's not much I can do, trust me, there is.
We're a family of 4. We've been living zero waste since January 2014, or I should say working towards living zero waste. I very much believe zero waste is an aspirational goal. It's something you're always striving towards. Zero waste is trying not to send anything to landfill and basically refusing any single-use items, especially plastics, and reducing your amount of recycling as well. I think a lot of people think nothing to landfill, a lot more to recycling, and actually it's a lot less recycling and trying to send nothing to landfill at the same time. The biggest unexpected benefit of zero waste was the level of gratitude that we experience for just everyday things has increased. We live in a society that's on demand and where we have access to everything. So all of a sudden when you limit yourself or you're no longer purchasing just whatever you want, in those moments that you can have those things, you're grateful. We very much had the mentality that to do something fun for the family, it had to cost money and you had to pack the car up and you had to like go somewhere, and it was this big production. Whereas now we just head to the park with the soccer ball and the dog, and we're not dealing with fussing kids, and it's just, overall, it's just a lot less stressful. This is my waste, or our family's waste, for 2015 to 2016. We go Earth Day to Earth Day. And I would say the majority of stuff in here is food ties, stickers, there's Band-Aids, dental floss, ribbons, the little plastic, we shop secondhand for clothes, but the little plastic tags, that's mostly what's in there. And then this one's jar is a bit bigger because we moved. And so there's, from our road trip across, there's some straws and plastic cutlery, things that, you know, when we weren't prepared, that we failed, and so they come home and go in our garbage jar. But again, a lot of the same. Initially, I started living this way with a friend. Kind of became a competition between her family and my family, which was fun. And she and I decided to start a website and blog to sort of document our journey. My children were 8 months and 2.5 years when we started living this lifestyle, so I don't think that they know any different. I don't think they feel any different. There's no complaining at the supermarket when they ask for this and I say no, because they understand why. My husband, he was actually deployed, and it took me 3 or 4 months to tell him what I was doing back home because I was very nervous that he wouldn't be on board. He's had the hardest adjustment out of anybody in the family, but he's very supportive. Some of the changes that I've made is that we no longer shop at a conventional grocery store. There's just too much packaging. So I tend to shop at a produce market, which I can walk to, and then I take my containers to a butcher, which I can also get eggs at, and fresh unpackaged bread. And then I go to a bulk store probably once a month and load up on all of my bulk things. I make a lot of products we just found we no longer needed. You don't need moisturizer for your body, for your face, for your eyes, for, you know, 10 different types of moisturizer, or shampoo for my husband, shampoo for me, shampoo for the kids, shampoo for the dog. Like, we just have one that we get in bulk. So a lot of really simple changes like that. Is anyone who's looking to start living zero waste, I'd say you really have to take stock of what your waste is. So instead of just tying up the garbage and tossing it out, just have a look at it. And I think most people will find that the majority of your waste comes from the kitchen, from food scraps if you're not composting, and from food packaging. And also take stock of how much waste you're putting out to curbside. So we were putting out a black garbage bag a week when we started. And you know, give yourself a goal. Say, I want to get that to 1 black garbage bag every 2 weeks, you know, and then just have that be your goal. Have it be very general, and then just see where you can reduce your waste. Like, start shopping bulk with your own bulk bags instead of buying everything that's wrapped in the produce section. Choose the loose peppers instead of the rainbow, or what is it, the stoplight, packaged one. Making small changes like that. There is a lot of criticism from people about, oh, you still wear clothes, or you still eat meat or dairy, or still drive a car. And you have to start somewhere. So we started in the home, and we take responsibility for our trash outside the home as well. And then from that starting point, I find that you just become open to other areas. So we're looking to sell our car and go car free. We're looking to downsize our home. And I think you have to start somewhere, and then just naturally you become open to other opportunities that perhaps you weren't open to before. The most difficult thing, I think, is that I still exist in a society that's, capitalist society, consumer-based, where you're bombarded with ads and things, and you're told you need to buy this or buy that. It's basically continually reminding yourself of what's really important and that you don't need to buy in to that. So for me, that's the greatest challenge, as well as remembering that I'm not depriving my children, that I'm actually doing this to benefit my children, because I think oftentimes people think like, oh my God, your children must be so deprived. And the reality is they're very fortunate.
In this small Japanese town, residents take the concept of recycling very seriously.
アルミ缶、スチール缶、スプレー缶、ペットボトルのキャップ。
They separate their trash into a whopping 34 categories.
鏡、金属、電球、蛍光灯、バッグ、段ボール、新聞、折り込みチラシ、雑誌。
Welcome to Kamakatsu, Japan, the zero waste town.
きれいなプラはこの中にはめて、ちょっとこう餃子なんかして油がいっぱいついてる分、お水をかけても落ちない分については
Hatsui Katayama diligently separates her waste according to Kamakatsu's rigorous zero waste program.
ペットボトルは蓋を取って、でここにこれいっぱい。
In the very beginning, so Kamikatsu was doing it open incineration, but people could see that's really hurting the environment, at the same time the health of the people, so zero waste was created.
Since the program began in 2003, 80% of the town's garbage gets recycled, reused, or composted. The rest goes to a landfill, but by 2020, the goal is to be 100% zero waste.
この牛乳のパックとかこれもみんな別個に持って行ってます。アルミがこっち、スチール缶がスチールがこちらです。それでここがガラス類。分別も大変やけども、カンカンにしても全部中を洗って処分せないといけないっていうのも大変やし、めんどくさいし、最初これがちょっと抵抗がありました。
It's been very tough in the way to gain the understanding of the people. Of course, when they had to separate garbage into 34 categories, which is massive, it's really just tough.
Residents must wash, clean, sort, and then bring all of the materials to the city's recycling center, where monitors such as Kazuyuki Kiyohara make sure it's being done properly.
蓋やね。トリートメント。これもプラスチックの蓋でいいですよ。こっちの。
あと分別も、みんながみんな完璧にできるわけではないので、いろんなものが混ざったものとかを、分けたりするのが結構大変ですね。
Signs on each of the bins tell consumers what their trash will be recycled into and how much that process can cost or earn the community.
来たらもうそれが普通になって、今では自然に何も思わないでもちゃんと分別できるようになっております。
The town has what's known as a kuru-kuru shop, meaning circular, where residents can bring in and take used items for free. There's also a factory where local women make products out of discarded items.
We had lots of old kimonos or the old clothes or these flags not used anymore. So we asked all these grannies who really had the skills for the sewing. Then they made it into a craft like teddy bears or bags or what I'm wearing right now as well. It's made out of all these fish flags that we celebrate and then use it for the Children's Day.
Businesses all over Kamakatsu have incorporated ways to become zero waste.
We are cutting, by doing the recycling, the cost into 1/3 compared to when we actually burn everything. We are trying to focus more in how can we change our lifestyles to not to produce any waste. Even in this small town with only 1,700 people, everyone look at each other and then look after or take care of each other. So this kind of supporting system within the community really helped for the implementation of the zero waste.
Let us know if you have any unique tips for reducing your environmental impact in the comments below, and be sure to check out this next episode. 2 years of trash in this tiny little jar.
My values are having a really low environmental impact. I have to live like I want that, and so that's why I decided to change my lifestyle.
Thanks for watching Seeker Stories. Please subscribe to see new videos every week.
In January 1992, a cargo ship sailing from Hong Kong to Washington hit a storm, and 12 containers tumbled overboard, releasing a fleet of blue turtles, green frogs, red beavers, and yellow ducks. 28,800 animals destined for bathtubs, now a lonely plastic navy drifting in the Pacific Ocean. Then they started to float ashore, along the Alaska coast, Washington State. Some even traveled as far as the British Isles. But a few ended up here, in a swirling spiral of floating junk, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. There's 5, maybe 6 spots on Earth where rotating currents gather masses of plastic debris. But go there and you won't see mountains of yellow ducks, red beavers, and novelty sunglasses. Not alarming as Garbage Island, but a lot more dangerous. The high-density plastics we use to make consumables, think water bottles, straws, Frappuccino cups, are broken down by sun, waves, and curious critters until what's left is less like garbage rafts and more like tiny bits of confetti floating in soup. That soup is bad news for what lives there, which is ironic since plastic was invented to save animals. During the 19th century, the demand for ivory billiard balls decimated elephant populations, forcing chemists to look for a synthetic alternative. They found it in 1907, Bakelite, the first synthetic plastic. Of course, the real boom didn't come until the mid-20th century.
I just want to say one word to you. Just one word. Yes, sir. Are you listening? Yes, sir, yeah. Plastics.
Modern plastics are so strong that a 60-gram jug can carry 4 kilograms of milk. But despite being so durable, plastic is also cheap. So cheap that much of it's designed to be used just once. And even when it ends up in the trash can, or better yet, the recycling bin, every year more than 8 million tons of plastic waste leak into the ocean. That's about 15 plastic shopping bags worth for every meter of coastline on Earth. Because that plastic is broken down into nearly invisible bits, it makes it hard to figure out just how large those polluted patches are. Is it 1 Texas, 2, or 4 Texases? Or is it Texi? Whatever. That puny plastic potpourri also means most of those ocean skimming cleanup ideas you hear about won't work. And truth is, while we might hear a lot about these flotillas of flotsam, we find plastic everywhere we find ocean, and at every depth. Even the deepest. Birds and younger sea animals that can't dive deep to find their dinner end up feeding near the surface where they encounter more plastic. Larger debris can certainly tangle these animals up, but many end up eating plastic too, sometimes by accident. To a sea turtle, floating trash looks a lot like dinner, and smaller debris, when ingested by young fish, can interfere with growth and development. On the small scale, the tiny organisms who recycle whale poop, driftwood, and old ships can't break down microscopic plastic debris, and those tiny bits can absorb toxins which are concentrated as they move up the food chain, even to our plates. But that plate is somewhere we can make a difference. When it comes to plastic pollution, just remember the 6 R's. Reduce. Choose to buy fewer things that are packaged in non-recyclable plastic. Did you know that stores like Amazon often let you choose hassle-free packaging? Reuse. Think reusable. I mean, it certainly works for Hollywood. Recycle. Most cities have recycling programs these days, but a lot of recyclable stuff still gets thrown away. Stuff like clothes and shoes full of plastic fibers, so why not donate them? Rethink. If you build or make things, ask if there's another way to do it without using disposable plastics. I mean, I hear the next iPhone might be made of wood. And if you own something plastic and it breaks, try to repair it rather than throw it away. Finally, refuse. Just say no to disposable plastics. Turn your plastic fork into metal. Did you know that Americans use 500 million drinking straws every single day? Did you know that you can drink with your mouth and not use a straw? Try it. It doesn't suck. We'll never get rid of plastic, and that's okay. It's still a pretty great invention, and there's a lot of places where it makes sense. But there's a lot of places where it doesn't. Just ask the turtles and the birds. Stay curious.